Hi everyone, I'm Shalil and I will be reading Matthew 26 and through 28. Join me in reading this When Jesus had finished all these words, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man is to be handed over for crucifixion." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people were gathered together in the court of the high priest named Caiaphas. And they plotted together to seize Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they were saying, "Not during the festival, otherwise a riot might occur among the people." Now when Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster vial of very costly perfume, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at the table. But the disciples were indignant when they saw this and said, "Why this waste? For this perfume might have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you bother the woman? For she has done a good deed to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. For when she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be spoken of in memory of her." Then one of the 12, named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me to betray him to you?" And they weighed out 30 pieces of silver to him. From then on he began looking for a good opportunity to betray Jesus. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" And he said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I am to keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" The disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. Now when evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12 disciples. As they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will betray me." Being deeply grieved, they each one began to say to him, "Surely not I, Lord." And he answered, "He who dipped his hand with me in the bowl is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man is to go, just as it is written of him. But woe to the man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." And Judas, who was betraying him, said, "Surely it is not I, Rabbi." And Jesus said to him, "You have said it yourself." While they were eating, Jesus took some bread, and after a blessing, he broke it, and he gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for forgiveness of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." After singing a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike down the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." But Peter said to him, "Even though all may fall away because of you, I will never fall away." And Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, that this very night, before a rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter said to him, "Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you." All the disciples said the same thing too. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and distressed. Then he said to them, My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." And he went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, "So, you men could not keep watch with me for 1 hour? Keep watching and praying that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away again a second time and prayed, saying, "My Father, if this cannot pass away unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them again, and went away and prayed a third time, saying the same thing once more. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. Behold, the one who betrays me is at hand." While he was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, came up accompanied by a large crowd with swords and clubs, who came from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now he who was betraying him gave them a sign, saying, "Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him." Immediately Judas went to Jesus and said, "Hail, Rabbi," and kissed him. And Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you have come for." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and seized him. And behold, one of those who were with Jesus reached and drew out his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for all those who take up the sword shall perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? How then will the scriptures be fulfilled, which say that it must happen this way?" At that time, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as you would against a robber? Every day I used to sit in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But all this has taken place to fulfill the scriptures of the prophets." Then all the disciples left him and fled. Wow. Those who had seized Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were gathered together. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest, and entered in, and sat down with the officers to see the outcome. Now the chief priests and the whole council kept trying to obtain false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. They did not find any, even though many false witnesses came forward. But later on, 2 came forward and said, "This man stated, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said to him, "Do you not answer? What is it that these men are testifying against you?" But Jesus kept silent. And the high priest said to him, "I adjure you, by the living God, that you tell us whether you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said it yourself. Nevertheless, I tell you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has blasphemed. What further need do we have of witnesses? Behold, you have now heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and beat him with their fists, and others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, you Christ, who is the one who hit you?" Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him and said, "You too were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before them all, saying, "I do not know what you are talking about." When he had gone out to the gateway, another servant girl saw him and said to those who were there, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." A little later, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Surely you too are one of them, for even the way you talk gives you away." Then he began to curse and swear, I do not know the man. And immediately after, a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the word which Jesus had said, before a rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And he went out and he wept bitterly. Chapter 27. Now when morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him to Pilate the governor. Then when Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that he had been condemned, he felt remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. But they said, what is that to us? See to that yourself. And he threw the pieces of silver into the temple sanctuary and departed. And he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests took the pieces of silver and said, it is not lawful to put them in the temple treasury, since it is the price of blood. And they conferred together, and with the money bought the potter's field as a burial place for strangers. For this reason that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then that which was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one whose price had been set by the sons of Israel, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord directed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor questioned him, saying, Are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus said to him, It is as you say. And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, Do you not hear how many things they testify against you? And he did not answer him with regard to even a single charge. So the governor was quite amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the people any one prisoner whom they wanted. At the time, they were holding a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the people gathered together, Pilate said to them, Who do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that because of envy, they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him a message saying, Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for last night I suffered greatly in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to put Jesus to death. But the governor said to them, Which of the two do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? And they all said, Crucify him. And he said, Why? What evil has he done? But they kept shouting all the more, saying, Crucify him. When Pilate saw that he was accomplishing nothing, but rather a riot was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to that yourselves. And all the people said, His blood shall be on us and our children. Ooh. Then he released Barabbas for them, but after having Jesus scourged, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus in the praetorium and gathered the whole Roman cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and a reed in his right hand, and they knelt down before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! They spat on him, and they took the reed and began to beat him on the head. After they had mocked him, they took the scarlet robe off him and put his own garments back on him, and they led him away to crucify him. As they were coming out, they found a man of Cyrene named Simon, whom they pressed into service to bear his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they gave him wine to drink mixed with gall, and after tasting it, he was unwilling to drink. And when they had crucified him, they divided up his garments among themselves by casting lots. And sitting down, they began to keep watch over him there. And above his head they put up the charge against him, which read, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. And at that time 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those passing by were hurling abuse at him, wagging their heads and saying, You who are going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him and saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now, if he delights in him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" The robbers who had been crucified with him were also insulting him with the same words. Now from the 6th hour, darkness fell upon the land until the 9th hour. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And some of those who were standing there, when they heard it, began saying, "This is the man calling for Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge. He filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and gave him a drink. But the rest of them said, "Let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now the centurion and those who were with him, keeping guard over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the things that were happening, became very frightened and said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Many women were there looking on from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee while ministering to him. Among them was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a large stone against the entrance of the tomb and went away. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary, sitting opposite the grave. Now on the next day, the day after the preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered together with Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember that when he was still alive, that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I am to rise again.' Therefore, give orders for the grave to be made secure until the 3rd day. Otherwise his disciples may come and steal him away and say to the people, 'He has risen from the dead,' and the last deception will be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard. Go, make it as secure as you know how." And they went and made the grave secure. Along with the guard, they set a seal on the stone. Chapter 28. Now after the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the 1st day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to look at the grave. And behold, a severe earthquake had occurred, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled away the stone and sat upon it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing as white as snow. The guards shook for fear of him and became like dead men. And the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who has been crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. Come, see the place where he was lying. Go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead. And behold, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you." And they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to report it to his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and greeted them. And they came up, took hold of his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and take word to my brethren to leave for Galilee, and there they will see me." Now while they were on their way, some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priests all that had happened. And when they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers, and said, You are to say, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if this should come to the governor's ears, we will win him over and keep you out of trouble." And they took the money and did as they had been instructed. And this story was widely spread among the Jews and is to this day. But the 11 disciples proceeded to Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had designated. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some were doubtful. And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Wow. What a commitment and what a sacrifice. Thank you for joining and listening in on the reading of Matthew 26 through 28 with me. I hope that you have a wonderful evening.
Hi, friend. Welcome to Fear into Faith Global Bible Revival, where we're on a mission to get 1 million people to read the Word of God cover to cover in a year. I'm your host, Summer Day, and with me in the studio is Shalil Harmon.
Yes.
Did I do it?
You got it.
Did I do it? Did I do it?
Good.
Ooh, I like that name, Shalil.
Thank you.
It's so pretty. You said you were named after your grandma?
My grandmother, this is a funny story, actually.
I want to hear it. I like funny stories.
Her name is Lily Mae. My first name is April. Shalil's my middle name. So there's May, there's April, and my mom's name is Joe.
And I'm Summer Day. Thank you. We'll be here all night. So good. April, May, and June. I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So that's your middle name.
My middle name.
And you just started going by your middle name?
I did.
Why?
Because I felt like April died. Like who I was had to go. And God
Wow.
wanted me to take on the new name in the new season as the new creation that I am.
That's
So,
awesome. I usually start off with like, who are you, where you're from? Let's just get to that. Like, what? Tell me more about that. What happened a year ago?
A year ago, I was convinced that my purpose, not my purpose had shifted, but the means to achieving my purpose had changed. It wasn't what I thought it was when I was in that season of being April, being faithful somewhat, but lukewarm and not all the way in, and like still trying to like figure out who I was and like lean on God for that, but not really lean and all the way into God. And as he started to reveal to me my purpose in him and what it really looked like and who I really am, the old version of me didn't fit anymore. The name didn't fit anymore. And so he moved me into going by this new name, especially as it relates to my artistry, because I didn't know that I was an artist either and that my purpose was all wrapped up in my creativity. And I was out here trying to do the corporate thing and do the real estate thing and all of that. And he was like, "No, you go create."
You go create.
Yeah.
I love it. So you're an artist. What kind of artist?
Multidisciplinary. So I do music, film writing, I dance, I write plays, I write scripts, I build art installation and immersive experiences, and really anything the Lord puts in me, I do, because I'm kind of still figuring out what kind of artist I am because it's so new.
Yeah, you might want to narrow down. You're like, you sculpt too?
I am actually about to do some of that.
Come on, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I asked you this earlier, but I talked to you about the immersive experiences. For people that are watching that don't know what that is, what's an immersive experience?
So an immersive experience is when you go to a place, and when you enter that place, it's like a whole new world. So you're immersing yourself into whatever the design of that world is. So like if we wanted to turn this into like the nativity scene, right? And immerse people into that and make them do things, and they get to walk up and like pet a lamb or whatever.
They used
So
to
it's
do that at a church where I'm from in California.
yeah.
Okay.
And so now they have immersive experiences where it's like, foot traffic, it's in a retail space and it's open 60 to 180 days for however long. They have them for movies and different TV shows, like The Office has an immersive and experience where you literally go in and you feel like you're on the set of The Office, like you're in it. And so it's taking a concept and really bringing people in it to where they feel like they are a part of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So good. What made you want to start doing that?
The music turned into the immersive. And it was something that the Lord had given me vision for in 2017, but I didn't really know that it was for me. I thought I was going to be building these types of things for other artists.
You thought you were going to build the immersive experiences for them?
Immersive experiences, like these larger than life concepts. Like I have a journal of just like ideas and designs, and I was like, Lord, why am I having all this? I thought I was going to be an event planner, but it wasn't aligning in that way. It wasn't making sense. But yeah, I just kind of got vision from God for all this stuff. It didn't exist when I thought about it. I hadn't seen it before. I didn't know what it was. I was just writing what I saw.
Yeah. So how did the music stuff start then?
So in 2016, I co-founded a music studio in Austin on 6th Street, and it was all things unlike God and secular and rappers and drugs and all of these things. And I was like walking around like, Lord, why am I here? That was my first encounter with music, being like the back end of the business, running the studio, getting people booked and all of these things. And I kept trying to figure out, why am I here? There was a disconnect. And so after that, I just went back into real estate. I started focusing on selling homes and doing all the things. And then towards the end of 2019, right before 2020 started, COVID broke out, I wrote a song. And I thought that I was going to give that song to some artists to actually go and use. And
so I just thought you were going to be a songwriter and pass it along. Okay.
And as I continued to write, I was like, no, I'm going to record this. So I went to record it, and I sent it out to people, and they were like, when did you start doing this? And I was like, today.
Had you sung before?
No, and the thing is, it wasn't music and singing. It's faith-based rap music.
Come on.
And then later on, the singing has come out now, but at that time, it was just straight rap music. And
so you were rapping.
I was rapping, and that was
so you know you got to rap for us, right?
I might do something.
Come on. Not Mike. We're ready.
Oh, gosh.
I want to hear a little bit of your rap.
Okay, you want to hear a little bit.
I've heard very little Christian rap. So
what's your favorite Bible
You're going to wow me, whatever. Well, I teach a lot about Proverbs 18:21. Death and life's in the power of the tongue, and those who love it shall eat its fruit.
Shall eat its fruit. Okay.
You're just going to make something up right now?
No, my music has a lot of scripture woven into it. So I wanted to see if you would give me a bar so that I could spit a bar.
Well, does that help? Do you need a different one?
No.
Fear into faith scripture is 2 Timothy 1:7, which is God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind.
No, I don't have that one. I can't think of that one. But I will give you something. I've been reaping. I've been sowing. Harvest now, you know I'm growing. Everything he ever told me came to pass, and now I'm knowing. Staying down, I'm never folding. So my soul, they can't afford it. Few are called, but I'm chosen. I got that. That's as much as I got right now.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. That's so good. Thanks for being put on the spot like that. Amazing. So you had no plans to do any of this, and you suddenly just started rapping. Did you know you could rap? Like, would you rap in the car with the windows up and nobody knew?
Yeah, okay. and at home by myself, and literally after I recorded that song, I had an encounter with the Lord, and I was in my kitchen, and I kept saying, bara, 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 bara. And I said, Lord, what is that? And I looked it up, and it means to create in Hebrew.
Wow.
And the Lord was like, you're going to do this. And I was like, I'm going to do this. So I kept writing songs. And as I continued to write songs, I realized, oh, this is an album. And then it just kind of, we're here now, 4 years later.
So your first album came out?
No, it's unreleased. I've been working, God is interesting. I've been working on the same project for 4 years, and it's frustrating because the industry, right, like makes you feel like you put it together, you make the music, you pick a single, you roll it out. God was like, nope, you're going to turn this whole album into a devotional journal, and that's the first thing you're going to put out. So the journal's out there, but the music's not.
How do people get the devotional journal?
So the devotional is on my website, therealshalil.com.
Nice, that's so good.
Therealshalil.com.
Nice.
Yeah, it's on the website.
So good. And you know what? Depending on when they're watching this, the songs and stuff might already be up.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.